Welcome to day 14 of our study through the Bible series, where we study the Bible in community here on YouTube. And we're going to be in yesterday's assignment from Genesis 11. And so if you want to go back to day 1, there's a link in the descriptions as well as in the cards above to do that. This is People of the Free Gift, where we ground believers in their identity in Christ and equip them to reach those caught in religion. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, and therefore that way you don't miss any of our future content. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Genesis 11, the assignment from yesterday. Read Genesis 11, mark the word language, and list all you learned from marking this word. Also make the word Babel in this chapter and in Genesis 10. Mark the word Babel. List what you learned. So we have language and we have Babel. And it says that the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And so going into the Tower of Babel event, there's only one language. And we can speculate as to what that one language might have been, whether that would have been Hebrew or something that would have been parallel to that. Some people have speculated that. Maybe, I don't know. So you can, kind of discuss that in the comments, but I don't think anybody truly knows. So they were of one language, one speech. So going down further, it says, "And the Lord said, Behold, the people are one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do." And this is kind of quite a statement of what humans can accomplish if we were all on the same page. We are all speaking, so to speak, the same language. But the problem with language is that it's not just even the words that you're saying, it's what you mean by those words. It's the body language that goes behind the words. Are you saying what you really mean, or are you doing something passive about it? But these people were all on the same page, headed in the same direction. And so God says, there's nothing that they will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. And of course, they were imagining evil. They were imagining to connect and ultimately kind of become their own, gods. And so God intervenes with that. And in the next verse, he says, "Go, let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." And so the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city, and therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. And so at the Tower of Babel, which is early Babylon, in fact, Saddam Hussein was trying to rebuild Babel, the Tower of Babel, and other things. He saw himself as the second Nebuchadnezzar. He was in Nebuchadnezzar's palace, and so we know it's modern day Iraq where we're talking about here, but he confounded the language of all the earth, and he scattered them. And so that table of nations that we talked about in Genesis 10, this is when that happened, and when all the people, the descendants of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, scattered above around the earth. And of course, you would scatter with people who spoke a similar language as you, that you could understand, you could work with. You can go and you can found your different cultures. And of course, as people went to the different environments and then they narrowed down the gene pools, then characteristics and traits became more prominent. If you've ever wondered how does that happen, there's great genetic diversity, even within the language of kind that we see in Genesis. Everything is replicating after its kind. Well, you go from a dog or canine type, which is what we've been using as an analogy, and you have all of the different species of dogs that have come as a result of that. Some that we have intentionally engineered by breeding two specific types of species because we wanted certain traits. Okay, so we know that there's a lot of genetic diversity, but then if you narrow that down and you have uh, uh, breeding with like, then you can narrow that down even further. And so you have a lot of diversity within the same genetic material at the beginning. Okay, so going down, we find at the very end, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Okay, and Eric and Akkad and Calneh and the land of Shinar. Okay, and so we have the introduction, or that's Genesis 10:10. Okay, where it talks about Babel, and that was Nimrod and his kingdom, and so that's early Babylon. And so you have those who stay at Babel, and they form a kingdom, one of the first great empires, so to speak, if you can call it that. And like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, that's during this time period. And so that is Genesis 11. Not very complicated. People try to build a tower that's erected into heaven, and then God intervenes. He confuses their languages and scatters them along all the earth. And so I want to hear your insights, things that I might not have covered that you picked up on. Go ahead and share that with the group, and also your questions. Things that I did not answer that you have questions about, go ahead and put that in the comments section. I'll be choosing some of those for the weekly Q&A. And tomorrow's assignment, day 15, store in your heart Genesis 6, 7, and 8, meaning that's a suggested memorized verse. Read and discuss Genesis 6, 7, 11 through 23, 2 Peter 3, 3 through 7, Matthew 24, 36 through 44. Discuss all you learn about the flood by asking who, what, where, when, why, and how, and then letting your answers come from these scriptures. So here's some questions for individual study and discussion. According to 2 Peter 3, 3 through 7, do all people accept the fact of a universal flood, and why do you think they respond the way they do? In Matthew 24, 36 through 44, Jesus uses the flood for an illustration. What was the point he was making regarding the flood when he compared it to the second coming? People are quick to believe that God is a God of love, yet they have a hard time accepting the fact that God judges. Why do you think this is? How do you feel when you hear the judgment of God? And what have you learned this week about God and his ways? And so those are the questions for discussion for today's assignment, and we'll catch you all back here tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to not miss any of our future content studying through the Bible, and give us the thumbs up if you like the content for today's video, and also share this with other people in your life who love studying the Bible, or maybe have always wanted to, but they've never been successful in doing that. Help them get the resources they need, answers to the questions that they have. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. And until next time, may God's grace be with you.